cannot believe the Liver King was on steroids. I can't.
Wait, that came out?
Yeah, that came out officially. The Liver King was on steroids. So
I never know what you're going to start. I never know what you're going to start this shit off with. Yeah, that's not very shocking. So you're telling me the raw meat doesn't instantly make you veiny and jacked?
No, I think raw meat would probably kill you. Although there was a guy who was like, just normal average Joe that would pick up like raw meat from Whole Foods and eat that every day. But he didn't get the hype that Liver King did because Liver King was jacked. And we know it's because he was juicing his mind off. By the way, just baseball show.
So he can't go to Cooperstown now. He's fucked.
No, the Veterans Committee might put him in. We'll see. Apparently, there's a non-zero chance that Barry and Clemens get in via the Veterans Committee. Yeah. So we'll see how that shakes out. Jack, Aram, Peter and Aram did the Mariners yesterday. Today, we do the Chicago Cubs. And this is part of like Cubs Week that we're doing here at Just Baseball. On the call-up, we broke down the Cubs' top 10 prospects. You updated them as an end-of-season top 10. We also have conversations with two guys in the top 10, two guys in the top 5. The number 5 Cubs prospect, Matt Mervis, and then you got to see where Pete Crow Armstrong is. But the conversation with Pete Crow Armstrong is coming out on Friday. And that, my friends, is called a tease to go look at the article.
Oh, hell yeah. We learned about that in journo school, right? That's what tuition gets you? A nice little tease. Yes. Thank you for the tease. Really excited to talk to Pete. I feel like he's Pete Crow Armstrong's one of those guys where you feel like you have to say all 3 names or else you're like, I feel like I'm cutting it off. I say Pete and I'm like, I still have the urge to say Crow Armstrong. But PCA. Regardless, PCA. Had a great conversation with Matt Mervis. That episode is out as you're listening to this on the call up. Mervis, we've talked about a lot on the podcast, friend of Just Baseball, was rocking his JB shirt in the episode, which is super dope. Pick those up. By the way, today's the last day to get that discount, that 20% discount that we had rolling from Black Friday, Cyber Monday, all that good stuff. Great way to support Just Baseball. But Mervis, he's going to factor into this conversation here. We did talk a little bit about that on the call-up about, potentially trying to break camp. That's his goal. That's his expectation. He wants to break camp with the Cubs. The Cubs have some decisions to make. We're going to break that all down here, and we're going to play a little GM. But, yeah, keep an eye out for the Pete Crow Armstrong interview, top 25 prospect in baseball. I think one of the best and most dynamic young center fielders in the game right now, in the minor leagues, that is.
Can we agree that if Matt Mervis doesn't break camp with the Cubs, we riot?
Oh, 100%. I'm going to be such an asshole on Twitter and stuff. I will.
Yeah,
I said it. I said it on the podcast, man. Like I was obviously didn't want to put him in a spot where he says anything bad, but I was like, so you should absolutely be on the opening day roster. This is me saying it, not you. But anyways, what's your goal for the season? And that's kind of what we did. But you look at the roster resource, which we're going to pull up here, and he's in there. And the Cubs were supposedly in on Jose Abreu, but he signs with the Astros. A lot of money. Doesn't make sense to pay that much money when you've got a first baseman here in Matt Mervis, who in
Alfonso Rivas.
And Alfonso Rivas translates very well. So the Cubs have been kind of a head scratcher for us in a lot of ways, because I think we're starting to see more of what they're doing, and it's more clear of what the plan is. And in writing up the system, they've built a really good farm system, but they want to spend, Jack. Are they spending just to buy some time and keep fans entertained? Or are they spending as part of this build into sustainable success? Or maybe the answer is both.
Yeah, so I brought that up when we were talking about the top 10 prospects for the Cubs on the call-up. And is it buying time? Like, I feel like this conversation actually gets more complex because the farm is so good now. Maybe you weren't expecting the farm to be this deep in every facet. But here we are talking about a farm that is deep in starting pitching, that is deep in infield and outfield talent. Like, they're in a really good spot, I'd say, for the most part, in outfield talent and starting pitching depth. That's where they're at. They have
which is crazy because they had no pitching depth like a year ago.
Zero. But they made sure to go get it. They made sure to go get foolproof guys. Like, how about in the Kris Bryant deal, right? You go and get Caleb Killian to hedge the volatility of Alexander Canario. Killian was a guy that made his major league debut this year. Okay, you want to dish out Scott Effross. You're not competing for a playoff spot. You know you can dish him to a contender. Give me Hayden Wesneski back. And we know how good Wesneski was. Sub-3 ERA. Opponents hit under 200 against him in 33 innings at the major league level. So they made a concerted effort. Jed Hoyer made a concerted effort. General manager Carter Hawkins as well made this funneled effort to go and get pitchers that nobody can screw up. And they did a great job of that. So this is a really complex conversation. Before we get to the Cubs, let's just make this a Chicago episode. Did you guys say your piece on the Clevenger thing and the Abreu thing?
We talked about Abreu. We didn't even mention Clevenger.
Okay, good. Like Clevenger, real quick, 1 year, $12 million is so effing stupid. So stupid. I mean, what do you want from Mike Clevenger now? You needed a 5. Yeah, you've got a guy who pre-second Tommy John was like a 3 or a 2. But what did he just show you in San Diego after his second Tommy John surgery? He and Noah Syndergaard were the same thing. It was Noah Syndergaard. Like, is he a guy that can fill, I don't know, 150 innings for you and give you reliable starts? Hell no. Clevenger was worse than that. I don't like this signing at all.
We were joking about Jordan Lyles. I would rather have Jordan Lyles at $7 million.
Yes.
The Orioles declined Jordan. The Orioles declined Jordan Lyles' $11 million option for 2023 earlier in the month. I think I'd rather have Jordan Lyles at $11 million.
It's tough. I agree with you. I think that this guy, I mean, I was texting with my uncle Matt Spiegel, co-host of Parkins and Spiegel in Chicago, 670 The Score, and he kind of brought up the same point. Like, what are you asking for from Clevenger? Like, what can you expect? And he said the 2 success stories, quote unquote success stories, in starting pitchers with 2 Tommy Johns under their belt are Nate Eovaldi and Chris Capuano. And Capuano is not a success story by any stretch.
Not really.
Do I fully expect Walker Buehler to be the 3rd success story? Yes, I do. But we're still waiting on that. And he's going to be out the entirety of 23. So, dude, this is a really tough situation for the White Sox. And letting Abreu walk, I would not have given Jose Abreu that money if I was Rick Hahn.
No, it's a lot
I'm
of
happy
money.
He did not. It's a lot of money. That should have priced you out. Apparently, he got a really good offer from the White Sox, and he wanted to go elsewhere. So I'm glad that relationship is done. I'm not happy that we're going to see Jose Abreu in another uniform. I am happy that Andrew Vaughn doesn't have to play right field anymore, and I'm happy that Gavin Sheets doesn't need to play right field anymore.
It's going to be a fun GM episode when we talk about the White Sox because I don't think Clevenger helps that much, but he is a warm body in the rotation, and it'll be interesting to see how they fill the rest of it out. But I am interested now to see what the Cubs do. If they were presumably in on Abreu, where are they looking to add offensively? We've heard them basically tied. And we've heard that's based on every report we see on Twitter, The Athletic, whatever you want, ESPN, whatever you want to see, that they're in on everybody. I think Jed Hoyer's pretty much said that they're in on everybody. I don't think you should just spend to spend. And I'm not saying the Cubs are going to do that. I just don't totally understand the shortstop infatuation, Jack. Like, I think Nico Hoerner is pretty damn good. Is that a crazy? I feel like Cubs fans are so gung-ho on adding a shortstop. And I get it. If you're getting a Correa or a Trey Turner or whatever, but like if you're getting Dansby Swanson for $100 and whatever million, like I'd rather just have Nico Hoerner pre-arb at short. Like, what are we talking about here? So unless it's Correa, who I think is a great fit, by the way, and that would be the best defensive middle infield maybe in the history of the sport. But I don't know if I don't get why they're so gung-ho on the shortstop market when you have a Nico Hoerner who looked spectacular last year on both sides of the ball.
Dude, I'll pound the pavement that I think Xander's the best fit because Xander can play third. And Patrick Wisdom right now is the starting third baseman for the Cubs on opening day. I don't think they really need a shortstop. And we're trying something new visually. If you're joining us on YouTube, you're seeing what's brought to us by our friends at StreamYard right now, where we're sharing the roster resource page on Fangraphs, and we're also going to toggle between Fangraphs and SpotTrack a little bit once we talk about the financials here. But looking at the opening day lineup predicted by Roster Resource. You've got Yan Gomes behind the plate, who is the only catcher under contract right now, not named Miguel Amaya, who's coming off of Tommy John. You've got Alfonso Rivas at first, Madrigal at second, Horner at short, Wisdom at third. Outfield left to right is Happ, Morel, Suzuki, and you got Matt Mervis as the DH, with the bench being Higgins, Masterboni, McKinstry, and who else? Nelson Velasquez. That makes some sense.
So let's start this way. This is kind of how we did it with Peter. Let's just start with the locks, right? Because the Roster Resource is not going to project signings. So they're only going to go off of what they presently have, which is why you see Alfonso Rivas at first and Yan Gomes at catcher. So the locks right now, as they stand, Nico Horner up the middle, shortstop or second base. I feel like that's a lock, right? He's playing one of those two spots.
Correct.
Is that fair?
Yes.
Seiya Suzuki in right, lock.
Yes.
Ian Happ in left.
Yes.
Guaranteed. I would say at this point, Wisdom is penciled in at third, but that's not a lock.
I think Morel is the only other lock in the starting lineup.
Is he a lock in center? Is Morel a lock in center?
I think Morel is going to be an everyday player for the Cubs.
I think that's a pencil in. Yeah, I agree. And then that's about it, right? Like lineup wise, that's about it.
Yan Gomes is going to be there because they owe him $6 million, and nobody's taking on $6 million of Yan Gomes, I don't think. But I think he is best served as a backup. There is a chance that Yan Gomes is just the guy for the Cubs behind the plate, which would suck. And they don't really have a catcher coming up if Amaya doesn't work out post Tommy John, right?
I'm looking at Yan Gomes' stats right now, so I'm scrolling over to the right. 235, 260, 365 last year. Sorry, what was the question?
No, I mean, they don't really have a catcher in the system if Amaya doesn't work out.
They don't. No. Which is why I fully expect them to do something. I don't know if it's a lower cost addition like a Christian Vasquez. There's a free agent named Wilson Contreras who would be a good fit.
Yeah.
What's wrong with Wilson Contreras? Do they just not get along? Is there more to that I don't know about? You're a little bit more plugged in with like Chicago talk. But why is Wilson Contreras not being paid whatever he wants to come back within reason?
So how valuable do you think Wilson Contreras is? That's my question. Like, yeah, he's the best catcher on the market right now. But how valuable do you deem him? Like, my thought is the Cubs are going to see what the first offer is that comes in. I don't think there was a breakup here at all. I think it was a very amicable relationship, and I think that Wilson loves being in Chicago.
I mean, they never traded
Chicago
him.
loves Wilson Contreras because he was the only one they held on to.
Yeah. And then they never traded him even, at this past deadline. And they were fine with, taking their chances on trying. That's why I think they're going to make an effort. I agree. And then if not, they get the draft pick.
Yeah.
The very obvious spots, right, are the hot corner. I would say one of the middle infield spots, because Nick Madrigal cannot start at second base. And I think if you're counting on Nick Madrigal, I think you're setting yourself up for failure.
Correct.
And DH / first base. I think Mervis should be the starter opening day, but you need another middle of the order, first base, DH, corner outfield type masher, which I have my guy in mind already when we start to get to like the simulated moves.
I do too.
I think the bench is great. I love the Miles Mastrobani addition. That was sweeping in to kind of grab from the 40-man crunch of the Rays. I loved that ad. I love
McKinstry.
Yeah, I think he's a good piece too. And Velasquez is a solid player. I think he could be a nice bench bat, power platoon guy that you can mix in too. So where do we start?
I want to get him a catcher.
Okay.
Free agent wise, there's one guy that jumps out to me, and it's Omar Narvaez. He make a little sense. He is an incredibly good defensive catcher. Narvaez is seasoned enough. I feel like he can handle the staff. He's not a liability offensively. This year, Narvaez, 31 years old. Narvaez, 84 games, hit 206 with a 597 OPS. So he was a liability this year.
But he was this year.
In 2021, 123 games, he had a 743 OPS. So if he can capture that, I'm very happy. He's also a left-handed bat. And if you do want to platoon Yan Gomes, you can have Yan Gomes hit against left-handed pitching. You can have Narvaez hit against right-handed pitching.
And he knows the division. You know, I mean, he's called games, you know, in the division for years now, which I think is valuable. I think that's a perfect addition, low cost. You can kind of wait to reassess the catching situation a year or two from now when Yan Gomes is off the books, because you have to look at what you're allocating to each position. And if you're paying Yan Gomes that, you know, while also going to sign another more expensive catcher, it's kind of a tough justification there. So I think that's a perfect marriage. Yan Gomes is one of the best backups. I know he's a starter right now, but he would be one of the best backups. So if Narvaez struggles, if he's more like 2022 Narvaez, then you give Yan Gomes more playing time. I think that's a good low cost addition there.
There we go. Any trade target you like catching wise?
Here's my thing is I just don't want to I don't want to trade from the system if I'm the Cubs, unless it's one of those older guys like Velasquez, maybe Canario, maybe like, I don't want to trade from any of the legitimate top 10 prospects, because I think they've done so well to build that up. So honestly, no, because Sean Murphy, it's going to be too much.
Do you think it's worth being in on Danny Jansen is my big question, because the Blue Jays are going to deal a catcher.
See, that's an instance where I think you could maybe pull off a deal without killing the system, like a big league piece. Because remember, the Blue Jays, they're not just looking for prospects. Like they'll be interested in a few different types of trades. I think that's a more attainable target. You know, what do the Blue Jays want is the question. So
my thought is Mastrobuoni and McKinstry are pretty much the same player. Left-handed utility bat, right? They can play absolutely anywhere. How about McKinstry and a decent prospect for Danny Jansen? Does that make sense? Because he's lefty. I mean,
they want to, and we know that we know the Jays want their lefty, for God's sake. They've wanted one for 2 years, I think, since just baseball started. No, I think McKinstry, I think, you know, what he didn't do, his struggles last year kind of hurt him a little bit in terms of the value. But a solid prospect in McKinstry, I think, could get it done. That would be that would be a really exciting move for the Cubs. And I think that's one of the few moves where you can justify trading from the system, because you're getting controllable talent here, right? Yeah. You still have several years of control with Jansen, so you can feel pretty good about what you've got going on there. So I'm just thinking, what prospect do you trade? I don't think they want to trade from their pitching, you know, that they've been able to build. They're not going to trade, I don't think, any of those top flight bats. They're not trading Cade Horton. It would have to be maybe a couple of the guys outside the top 10 with McKinstry, or one Ben Brown or something like that. But they just acquired him, and he looks great.
You're getting his age 28 and 29 season. So you're getting 2 years of control for a catcher that has really never had starting catcher experience. So McKinstry, and how about like Pinango is probably too far away.
Pinango's too far away.
Canario can't help him now because of the ankle thing. How would you feel about McKinstry and Velasquez?
I don't know if that's enough.
That's not enough. You think a pitcher?
Yeah.
Would you do McKinstry and no? You can't do McKinstry and Wicks. That's too much.
No, it's tough, bro. There's like no in between. But we could try and pull off a trade. I think that's the larger point is, I think a trade could be made for Danny Jansen.
Okay, we'll circle back to him after we hit the other bats that are needed. Middle infield, I like Horner at short. I will continue to pound the pavement that I think Xander Bogaerts is the best fit, because then that displaces Patrick Wisdom, and he can also move Horner over to second. Nick Madrigal can get some playing time like every now and again. Madrigal is going to be on your roster. I don't think his trade value is anything.
Zero,
which sucks.
Here's the thing with Nick Madrigal, dude. He's got to hit 350 and play 150 games to be a valuable baseball player.
Yeah.
Right? Like he doesn't give you speed. He doesn't give you power. His defense is not that great. Like he legitimately has to be the best bat to ball guy in baseball, and durable, which he's not durable whatsoever. So, you know, I like him as a bench guy, I guess, because he puts bat on ball, but like, I mean, yeah, you can't trade him either. My question is Xander Bogaerts willing to go to third?
Probably not. That's the thing. Like he's been so stern in the negotiating process that he's a shortstop. And that's why I think there are like a lot better fits for Xander Bogaerts. But I think for the Cubs, you know, If it was a one-way street, I'd say the Cubs should just hammer the shit out of the Xander Bogaerts avenue, but it's not a one-way street. Xander has some say, too. That's the whole point of free agency, and I don't think he would say yes to what the Cubs would be selling him on. I'm with you. I don't think they need a shortstop. Gun to my head, I do think they sign one of these 4 shortstops. I do.
Yeah. And I get it from the perspective of just like, what is the ceiling of Nico Hoerner, right? And they want to add a star player to get excited about. And I've maintained that shortstop is I think a power position now. You know, the way we look at third base and how that's always been you talk about corner mashers, quote unquote, right? It's not as important for a shortstop because if you're a great defender, you can still, prove your value as we have seen with a Nico Hoerner. But why are the Cubs not satisfied with Hoerner? Because I think they want a little bit more offense from that position, especially when they don't have a third base masher. And first base is, as much as I love Matt Mervis and believe in him, at the end of the day, he is unproven and they don't have anybody else. So I think they look at the free agent market. There's no third baseman really available, that I think they'd be excited to sign. I don't think they plan on spending huge at first base. So I think if they're looking at how do we upgrade our offense, both corners are accounted for. Shortstop might be the only way that they can really make a huge upgrade. And I think that's the big reason why. And the one reason why I can be okay with moving Hoerner. If you move Hoerner to second, he's going to be arguably one of the best second basemen in baseball. He's going to be everything that Tommy Edman is, but better. Is that not crazy? Is that crazy to say?
I think. Do you like Edman or Hoerner better offensively? I think I like Edman better offensively.
You'd be surprised at how not that great Tommy Edman's numbers were last year. Hoerner, 281, 327, 410 slash line, 10 homers, 20 bags, 11%.
What's that OPS?
That is a 736.
Okay. Edman was a 725 OPS, 31 doubles, 13 homers, 32 for 35 in the stolen base department.
Yeah. How old is Edman?
Edman is 27.
Nico Hoerner is 25. So point being, Tommy
you have Tommy Edman.
That's the point. We don't need to get to the bottom of who's better. The point is that's one of the best second basemen in baseball, and Hoerner could be exactly that.
Yeah.
We're very close to it. Or better.
Yeah.
I say better. But
which shortstop?
I think Correa is a phenomenal fit. I don't know what it is. I like the idea of him kind of leading the charge of this next wave of this youth movement, kind of taking over the Cubs. I look at Correa and I see a leader. Look at what he's done with the Twins, and I think it's a very similar type of situation in Minnesota, and a responsibility that he had there. Right, they brought him in a similar spot. I think you look at what Correa does defensively, what he can do with the bat. I look at a Trey Turner. I love him as an option at 2, but I don't know. Just something seems right about Correa. I don't know if I can totally put it into words. Usually I'm overly analytical and have a reason to why it makes sense, but it's really hard to say one shortstop's a better fit than another when they're all superstars,
Yeah, no, something seems really right about Carlos Correa. I'm with you. I think if I had to pick 2, it's Correa and Dansby. And if I was a Cubs fan, I would much rather have Carlos Correa than Dansby Swanson. Obviously, the financial commitment is going to be more, but in terms of total payroll in 2023, it's $92.4 million. And 22 of that is stuck in the Jason Hayward quagmire. Yeah. Hayward's going to get after 2023, he's going to get $5 million from the Cubs, and it'll go against their payroll in 24, 25, 26, and 27. But 22 is the big one that just hammers the shit out of you. But still, you take Hayward out of that, you got 72 committed to guys that are going to be on the field for you. You've got 92 committed total right now. 92, as it stands right now, is 15th in baseball. It's $3 million above league average, and you're about $130 million away from the luxury tax. So you can double what you have on the books right now. Granted, arbitration hearings have not happened yet, and you can still be very clear of the luxury tax. And if you go over the tax with 22 in dead money this year, I'm sure there are like some Gold Coast or Wilmette people that will pay it for the Cubs themselves. So the Ricketts don't want to say it. Promise you, they all went to New Trier. I know you know some New Trier folk, but those are the types of people that would pay that Cubs luxury tax money for them. But they've got ample money to spend. I really don't think a $300 million deal handcuffs them. And I think that Correa is the right fit here. I do think that ownership, and I do think Jed and Carter Hawkins know that a $300 million deal does not handcuff them.
No, I don't think it does at all. And I kind of expect it too. I think you're right, because that really does get this team looking a lot different, you know. And I am warming up to the idea of moving Hoerner if that's going to be your big splash, right? I just hope they do something else too, because I still think you need one more bat. So which shortstop are we going with here? Because I think there's a few different guys you can look at. I think there's a few different options, obviously. I think for Xander, it's hard to justify if he's not willing to play third, because I don't want a guy that's going to be less of a defender. I don't want to move the superior defender off of short.
No, I'm not sacrificing shortstop defense.
So that's why, and even Trey Turner is an inferior defender at short to Nico Hoerner. So for me, that's why I'm all in on Correa as the option for them at short.
It's Correa or Dansby, but let's pencil in Correa.
Yeah, because I think Hoerner can get to Dansby's value, honestly, in a couple of years. I really do.
Yeah, I think so as well, man. All right, so we filled out the middle infield here. We're looking for what, corner outfield or DH? Corner outfield's good.
Corner outfield's accounted for.
Yeah, so we're looking for a first base DH, and that's it. And
or center fielder, though. So are we not getting a center fielder here? Like, are we in on Morel, who was a disaster in the second half, for what that's worth? I like Morel as a prospect. Like, don't get me wrong, but he was a disaster in the second half.
So if I'm getting a center fielder, I want a cheap center fielder. I want a short-term center fielder with how much center field talent you have coming up, with Brennan Davis, with Pete Crow-Armstrong, with Kevin Alcantara. You need a stopgap. Cody Bellinger is the perfect stopgap.
It's so perfect.
It's so perfect, but here's the thing. The other perfect one is Fort Wayne native, and I think Cubs fan in his childhood, Kevin Kiermaier.
Okay. So money is irrelevant, I think, and when you're picking these two guys. Because again, I don't think
they're both cheap. Like, they're both max 2 years and cheap.
And it seems like Bellinger really wants the one, and that's what his agent Scott Boras is pushing for. So, what do you think here? Because on one side of it, I'm looking at the Cubs and I'm like, go for it all, right? Like, we don't know what this team's going to look like next year, and if Bellinger has something click, like all of a sudden, assuming that we have the shortstop here too, like they actually do that could be a team that sneaks into the playoffs, right? With Kevin Kiermaier, it's kind of just, I'd almost rather just see what Morel could do out there at that point. I love Kiermaier's defense. I love him as a leader and a vet in the game, but I have to justify it through some sort of pipe dream that my center fielder can turn into a star, or reclaim what he once was. Whereas Kiermaier, you're praying for a 700 OPS and that the defense continues to be as good as it was, in his prime and over the last few years. I swing for the fences on Bellinger. And if he struggles, you got Morel, right? If he struggles, you've got hopefully a Brennan Davis who proved that he's all the way back and healthy. If he doesn't struggle, you still have Morel to hit lefties. You still have, a little bit more of an opportunity to move guys around, which is what I kind of like, right? Morel could play some third. I know they don't love him there, but who cares? Figure it out. Get him some reps at third. You could split time with Wisdom and see how Wisdom does. And then if Bellinger's doing all right, you protect him from lefties and have Morel kind of be that guy there. So that could be an option. I think Bellinger's the best option.
I think he is too. You think they do it?
Unfortunately, what hurts my case is that Morel reverse splits last year. but it's a rookie year.
And if Bellinger plays, he's playing every day. Like, you're signing Cody Bellinger to be an everyday center fielder. At least you're going to pay him like an everyday center fielder.
So do you move Morel to third, or is that like
Morel's got some versatility? He's got a cannon of an arm, and Christopher Morel
kind of part of the problem. Like, everything is 98 with run from third. It's hard for first baseman.
So Christopher Morel last year, 57 games in center, 33 games at second, 18 games at third, 13 games at short. So he can play everywhere.
So that's your super utility guy.
I'm in. There we go. So Bellinger, and now let's trade one of the other utility guys for Danny Jansen. You in?
Yes.
So I think you got to bite the bullet. The Blue Jays are going to say, no, we want to win now. We want a piece that's going to help us win now, along with McKinstry. So let's give him McKinstry. And I do think you got to bite the bullet and give him Ben Brown.
Yeah.
McKinstry and Ben Brown. So a guy that can slot into their bullpen immediately, or they start him in AAA, and here he is as a starter with a chance to be a starter. Like, he is, I guess he's like kind of what you want Nate Pearson to still be.
Yeah. Which, by the way, he looked pretty good in Lidom in the Winter League. So there's a little hope there still.
Pearson,
yes.
Good.
Yes.
But Ben Brown, like, even if he's not a starter, if you decide that you don't need a starter, turn him into a setup guy, because he's a 6'6" right-handed arm that can give you 100 out of the bullpen. So McKinstry and Ben Brown for Danny Jansen, I think, gets it done.
And there is a realistic belief that you could be, who, by the way, Ben Brown, number 10 on our Cubs top 10 that just came out. You could be selling high on Ben Brown a little bit, because he was, a non-prospect going into this year, exploded, traded for David Robertson, continued to pitch well. But if he can't, continue to develop as a starter, that momentum will kind of plateau, and he's a very solid relief-oriented pitching prospect, right? I still think that there's hope that he can be a starter, and because of that hope, you have some value here as a big dude, big power pitcher. I kind of like that. If you got to throw in a third piece, you throw in a third piece. If Blue Jays fans are like, that's not enough. I think that is enough, because Ben Brown is a very high quality arm. Cubs just went out and drafted Cade Horton, who's very similar to Ben Brown in terms of just power pitcher with 2+ pitches already, but way more upside than Brown, I think, with the arsenal. And they also went out and got Jackson Ferris with the next pick too. So they've just added a bunch of pitchers. We talked about the depth that they've built. They got Ben Brown literally within the last 8 months for a rental reliever. If that's something you can pull off and parlay that into, your catcher, I think it's a no-brainer.
I think we just did it.
Throw in Nick Madrigal too.
All that's left is first base DH. You said you had a guy in mind. Who's the guy in mind?
So I'm a big believer in not clogging the DH role, right? So, like, I don't want to sign a guy that is limited to DH. And yeah, a little first base helps a little bit, but even then, I want a guy that can kind of move all over a little bit. And I think Brandon Drury is a perfect fit for the Chicago Cubs, because if you want him playing first, you can do that. If you want Mervis playing first and you want to give somebody else a day off, Drury can go play somewhere else. He can play corner outfield. He can play second. He can play third. He can play wherever you want. So the DH, I feel like, is become kind of this opportunity for guys to get days off all around, and allows you to mix and match a bit more. And I think Brendan Drury with Morel in this lineup just allows them to mix and match a lot more. And I think this team could kind of have pretty unique lineups and be able to get guys moving around. I would love Drury. And let's say Morel struggles, then maybe Drury ends up playing more third. I don't know. Are we kind of moving Wisdom out of the picture here?
I hope so. I mean, the dude is what? He's like a 40% K rate guy. Yeah,
I agree. I'm not huge on Wisdom. So, I mean, let's say Wisdom is kind of out of the picture. Morel struggles a bit. Drury's a guy that you can move to third while Mervis rakes. And then you've got plenty of other internal DH options too, right? Like Velasquez could end up DHing some games. You could call up Canario and he could DH some games. They could DH, say, a Suzuki some games and then put somebody else in corner outfield. That's an option, but I don't know. What else are you thinking?
I love Drury. Now that you threw it out, there were two other guys that kind of jumped out to me in that regard. One was I've had it. Where was it? So Profar like kind of crossed my mind, but not really. Will Myers was the other one that crossed my mind.
Oh, he kind of stinks.
I know, but that means he'll be cheap. And obviously he got the bag, so everybody knows there's some talent there.
What do you think? So
the other one that really piqued my interest was Brantley.
Brantley?
Yeah.
That's the one. I'd let Brantley clog my DH spot up. That's the one guy that can clog the DH spot. That's
You've got loud tools everywhere. Like having a Michael Brantley is pretty fun.
Man, having a Michael Brantley to talk to Christopher Morel, Matt Mervis, Seiya Suzuki, like to talk to the Nico Horner, to just help these guys as a leader, as one of the best pure hitters, I think, of the last decade plus.
Yeah.
Brantley's somebody I think's a fit for every single team.
Yeah. So
if we're going to clog up the DH
Brantley,
spot,
like we're going to say, oh yeah, I like it.
If we're going to clog the DH spot, the only guy I'm willing to do it with is a Michael Brantley. And it is worth noting, outside of Matt Mervis, they don't really have any projected starters that are left-handed bats. Rivas is not starting at first base. It's not happening. Mervis is really the only left-handed bat in a switch hitting Ian Happ, right?
Yeah. Suzuki, isn't Seiya a lefty?
Righty.
Seiya's a righty?
What are you talking about?
Shit, my bad. Sorry, Cubs Pete. Yeah, damn. Idiocy. Yeah, they're very right-handed, but that's kind of why I like Brantley. I don't know. I like Drury, though, way more.
You like Drury better than Brantley?
And if we're adding Bellinger, I feel better.
Oh, true. Yeah, we added a lefty in Bellinger.
So let's run through the lineup that we have right now. Can you pull up roster resource again for me?
Yep.
Yeah, we're on StreamYard right now. So what we've got at this very moment is Danny Jansen catching. At first, let's put Mervis. At second, we'll have Nico Horner. At short, we'll have Carlos Correa. At third, we'll have Brandon Drury with Patrick Wisdom DHing. And the outfield from left to right would be Ian Happ, Cody Bellinger, Seiya Suzuki. I'm buying a ticket to opening day if that's the lineup.
Yep, I agree. And again, like, I know that's not the sexiest DH in the world, but you can rotate a lot of different options. And also you can go trade for a DH pretty easily during the season if the team's playing well. But I like the idea of rotating it because Wisdom's had flashes. I wouldn't want to just cut ties with him. I want to see what he can do early in the year. And that's a perfect time to do it because if he doesn't work out, you're already built to be able to accommodate that, right? Like you're already okay.
If he DHs, he doesn't have to worry about playing defense. So maybe he strikes out less. We'll see.
Yeah, maybe. No, I think that's a good freaking offense right there. And again, Drury allows you to kind of move around a little bit. And I love that idea because I want Mervis playing first. I think he's capable. He's a capable defender at first, but again, just being able to rotate is very valuable in today's game.
Cool. All right. Pitching. They've got a lot of guys. Like they have a bunch of fours. Marcus Stroman and Kyle Hendricks are locked to be in that rotation. Locks. Hayden Wisniewski is a lock to be in that rotation.
I agree.
He was so good. He nailed the audition. So yeah. The other ones that jump out to me, Justin Steele should very well get another opportunity to be a starter for them. Adrian Sampson, Fangraphs currently has as the fifth starter. I like Caleb Killian a little bit more as a fifth starter than Sampson. Javier Assad, another guy that had a really good audition.
Yeah, I liked what I saw from Assad. I think Steele's a lock too.
Okay,
I know we got 4 out of 5 spots here.
All right, so we're looking for the fifth, and you've got Sampson, Killian, and Assad fighting for it right now.
Yeah,
they would benefit from getting another starting pitcher like in the free agent market. I'm sure they will pick up the phone and call. I don't think it's the end of the world if they don't do anything.
I think they're going to try to see, low cost, back end of the rotation addition. I don't see them trading from their prospect surplus or from their system to add another starter. Unless it's, a controllable big league proven guy that they feel like is going to be a big part of what they're building here, which, I just don't see. But there's a chance that Kyle Hendricks is like, I know he's a drive line. Isn't that what he's doing right now, or what he was doing? Like, there's a good chance Hendricks
is he going to sit 96 next year if he's a drive line.
I was going to say the opposite. Like, what if he's just a disaster and has nothing left?
Yeah.
So like you got to have, or what if Justin Steele takes a step back? What if Wisniewski isn't? I know you can play that game with any team, but I think there's enough questions here outside of Marcus Stroman where you got to have another vet arm in the fold. And I think you can get that via free agency too. I do. Like you could go sign a Ross Stripling, and I think that's fine, right?
Or a reunion with Quintana.
Hell yeah.
But here's the thing: if Quintana is going to, I don't think Quintana is going to get something similar to Bassett. But no. I mean, Chris Bassett, like I'm not giving Chris Bassett that money, especially if I'm the Cubs, because you don't need to. That's the thing.
He also just spent a bag, so.
Yeah. So I'm not too worried about it. I think there might be some guys in the back half of our top 50, which is at justbaseball.com. Like, hey, give Zach Eflin an audition. If you want to sign Heaney to a 1-year deal, feel free to go ahead and do that.
Heaney's going to be the guy this year that we pimp out to every team because he's a great fit for this team too. Big upside, nasty, but and probably could get on a 1-year deal. But yeah, I feel like we're going to pimp him out to every team.
Man. Okay.
Tyone?
I guess like there's just nobody that really excites me in free agency right now. And with how much starting pitching you have coming through, I honestly don't think you need to touch it. So Stroman, Hendricks, Steele, Wisniewski, Killian/Sampson/ Assad. And I think that's the opening day 5 and you roll with that.
Man, I just want one insurance policy vet.
Wade Miley. Is he out there?
Like Taijuan Walker?
Yeah, I guess, but Walker might be kind of expensive.
Really?
Maybe.
Is everyone expensive?
I think everyone's expensive.
Like I don't know what the Cubs like what they're because we're loosely basing this on what what these teams are kind of saying and what they want to do, and we're not going to be like mocking decisions like or like simulating decisions that are unrealistic based on what the reports are from those teams. I haven't seen much on the pitching side, right? We've heard so much about what they want to do on the offensive side, but I feel like we haven't heard much on the pitching side, and I think it might be because they don't know. But the thing is there's a chance Marcus Stroman has a good year and opts out. So if that happens, now you really got to hit free agency the next year, even though they're going to have guys coming up, but you need a proven arm. With Kyle Hendricks on his way out, how many more years does he have on his contract? Is this the last year coming up?
I think this is the last year coming up.
Like, I think they've got to have one guy locked up for a couple years because right now nobody's locked up, right? You got the youngsters with control, but Stroman could opt out. So I want to sign one vet. I do.
I think you cross that bridge when you get there. And I tell you what, man, I found a name that intrigues the shit out of me here. Michael Lorenzen. I loved watching Lorenzen this year. I know he was like a low 4s ERA guy in 18 starts, but Lorenzen, there was absolutely something there with Michael Lorenzen. I did not hate it one bit. I think that this is a guy that is not going to command crazy money. He didn't command crazy money from the Angels when he signed with Anaheim. I think that this would be a very fun, hey, you're the 5. Let's see if you can actually pitch like a 3 or not.
He wants to hit though.
Does he want to do both?
No, I don't know. Do you remember when he said that last year?
Yeah, he said he wanted to hit and then he didn't hit. So I'm good.
Didn't hit at all. He must have just been like seething watching Ohtani. I could be doing that too.
Pissed. I can do that too. No, you.
I like that. I'm in because if they stink next year for whatever reason, then you just trade them, right? Like,
yeah,
that's a good buy low flip. I'm in. All right, I needed one guy. I needed
buy
one guy.
low flip. Lorenzen, Matt Boyd.
1 year with an option or something like that.
Yeah, perfect. Give me Lorenzen on a 1+1 club option. I'm totally here for that. The bullpen is actually kind of fun. As of right now, who do you have in the fold? Adbert Alzolay also could be the 5. Hold on. Alzolay could very well be the 5. He's coming off a year-long injury. I love what Alzolay does.
He's pretty nasty. still think you should have a vet arm like Lorenzen in the fold because, okay, let's say Alzolay emerges. Cool. You just put Lorenzen in the bullpen, or he's a swingman. Guys get hurt all the time. Like, I still think they need a depth arm. But, I mean, Alzolay was pretty damn good in 2021. And as you mentioned, was hurt, pretty much all of last year. That's another iron in the fire. I agree. That's another guy that could be a dude for them.
Okay. So right now, the current bullpen as it stands is Brandon Hughes, Manny Rodriguez, Mark Leiter Jr. No, Rowan Wick, who's owed about $1.6 million. Keegan Thompson, who absolutely should be a part, Michael Rucker, and Eric Ullman. Cody Hoyer is another pre-arb guy. He missed the entirety of this year, came back in the Kimbrel deal. Hoyer, I think, so he was a TJ guy. I think he'll probably miss the front half of this year, but he'll be back mid-season. Another one that jumps out is Jeremiah Estrada. Estrada made his debut in 2022, and Estrada, if I'm not mistaken, was pretty decent. So I do think like there are some things that could go on here. 5 2/3 innings, 8 punch outs, 3 walks for Estrada in 2022. And this is coming off of a year where he had 34 appearances in the minor leagues and had a 1.3 ERA. Estrada was, that is the kind of guy that it's like, he had a great minor league season. Give him a chance in the bigs. He was fine. I think Estrada should get another chance.
So do you think they need to add, like, again, like I just want to vet, like just one.
Yeah. Like
who's the biggest vet? Mark Leiter Jr.?
No, I mean, I have no idea. Rowan Wick, I guess he's 30.
He's pretty nasty, but
like shit, like that. You look at this list of vets that don't excite you one bit, and they're all former Cubs. Michael Fulmer, or not Fulmer, Andrew Chafin, Chris Martin. I mean, they're all former Cubs, man. David Robertson.
They could fast track Valencia.
Yeah, with an 103 mile an hour fastball, that sounds great.
Like I think they have to sign again, like with how well they've been doing on these 1-for-1 or like these flip trades where they're kind of taking somebody in the 10 to 15 range of another team's top 10 and buying low and just identifying guys really well. I think they should be picking up a couple free agents that they plan on maybe flipping. Most of their best swing and miss strikeout stuff guys that I think are going to be a part of their bullpen are lower level guys like who we mentioned. They've got guys like Luke Little, DJ Hers, Bailey Horn, all guys that I think are going to be relievers and good ones, but Palencia of course as well, but just not for a little while. I would like to see them pick up a guy or two. Do you go for I don't think you go big market, right? Like, or you don't go blue chip reliever in this instance. They've already spent some money. There's no reason to do that when you don't quite know how good you're going to be next year. But what about can I interest you in
Tommy Kahnle?
I would say it would be fucked up if they brought David Robertson back. Tampering.
Tommy Kahnle?
Yeah, like Tommy. I think every team has interest in Tommy Kahnle. I saw a report.
Edwards Jr. Bring Carl Jr. back.
Kahnle, give me Kahnle.
Okay.
How
about one more? How about Tuki Toussaint on a minor league deal, but super incentivized if he gets up to the bigs?
We're getting way too deep into this. Like, no one's listening for that. Tuki Toussaint with an incentivized contract.
I'm in. Hey, sign Tuki Toussaint to a minor league free agent deal and see what he becomes.
Okay, cool. We'll add that in there. Are you getting like Michael Fulmer?
I like Kahnle. I like that.
Yeah, go Kahnle. I'm cool.
I just don't think you need to spend the way that Michael Fulmer is going to make.
Kahnle, Lynn University grad, and Boca Raton.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Florida man.
Okay,
there we go.
Right, cool. Bullpen set now.
Yeah, bullpen set now. It's like it's a C to C minus bullpen. It is a set rotation, but it's a C to C plus rotation.
Dude, I'm looking at these numbers right now. Like, they don't have a dude. I like Wick, but like, shit.
Yeah, but I don't think the Cubs are trying to win the World Series this year.
So you just don't invest in the bullpen?
I guess you wait.
I guess.
I don't know. I don't think bullpen is top of their priority list. I think the top of the priority list should be bats and putting out a lineup graphic that they're proud of.
The way they've been developing arms recently, or at least like with some of the guys that have been emerging stuff wise.
And there are enough guys like Palencia could very well make his major league debut in June.
If they wanted to fast track him, yeah.
And if they don't trade for Danny Jansen, Ben Brown could be a setup guy by May.
If they wanted to, which I don't. That one I don't think they'll do.
Yeah.
Palencia, I think yes. All right. Tommy Kahnle it is.
Tommy Kahnle it is. Okay, so I don't get really enthused about the rotation or the bullpen. I do like where the rotation's at, especially with Wicks and Horton and Hers and everybody else on the way.
It's competitive, but still leaves you open.
There's nobody blocking anyone.
Yeah. And you're not going to give a mega deal to somebody. It just doesn't make sense for them at this point. For a pitcher, it just doesn't make sense.
I waited for the 51-minute mark to tell you exactly why I think Jacob deGrom is the perfect fit for the Chicago Cubs.
Yeah. Why not? Right. I think that's it.
I think that's it. I'm really excited with the lineup that we built. So let's just run through that lineup one more time. Danny Jansen and Yan Gomes kind of sharing duties behind the plate. At first, it's going to be what? Matt Mervis.
I love it. And Brendan Drury, I guess.
Second. Correa at short. Brandon Drury at third. Outfield left to right is Ian Happ, Cody Bellinger, Seiya Suzuki, and you've got Patrick Wisdom DHing. I feel really good about that.
Really good about that team. And again, like you have Morel as a super utility guy. Some days you'll have, maybe Mervis is out of the lineup against a lefty, even though he hits lefties well. And you start Drury at first and Morel at third, or some days Morel plays center. Like you'll find a way to get Morel a lot of at-bats, I think. So he'll still get plenty of run.
Yeah. I'm in, man.
How many games does that team win? Oh, wait, rotation. What's the rotation? Did we say that yet?
Yeah, rotation is Marcus Stroman, Kyle Hendricks, Justin Steele, Hayden Wesneski, and some combination of Adrian Sampson, Caleb Killian, Javier Assad, or who was the 5 that we signed?
Michael
Lorenzen.
Yeah, I like it. Look at what Steele did last year, man.
Yeah.
3.18 ERA, 119 innings, 126 punchies. That guy's earned himself another look too next year. So, and who knows where some of the other arms in their system will be. I mean, Wicks could theoretically pitch his way to the big leagues by the second half. Already has some good starts in Double-A under his belt. Could be an option down the line as well. So I think they're in a really, really good spot overall. It's not going to happen in 1 year, but this makes them better next year, and then also has them set up for big time success 2 years, 3 years from now too, which is, I think, what they're really in it for, whether they'll admit it or not.
I'm in on this team, man. I'm in on what this team's direction is.
I would say I'm very in on the direction. Yeah. Even if people disagree with the moves for whatever reason, whatever, it's hard to disagree with Carlos Correa. The overall direction of the franchise is really good right now. And I think the way that they did this like subtle tear down of the back walls while leaving the front, like the facade of the building up, has been great, because that's the way you kind of have to rebuild for the Cubs. I don't think the 100 lost seasons are going to do it anymore. They set the bar too high in this, modern era now after winning the World Series and, being able to prove that they can be a good franchise again. And I think they're not doing the teardowns anymore. And the fact that they've been able to kind of do this without fully dismantling it. I know they weren't great last year, but they didn't fully bludgeon the team. It's a sign of a franchise that's doing things the right way. And it shows you don't have to hit the reset button to get better and kind of reshuffle and get to where you need to be.
You don't have to hit the reset button if you're the Chicago Cubs.
Yes.
You do have to hit the reset button if you are not one of the top 5 markets and organizations in Major League Baseball, but a team like the Yankees is never going to rebuild. A team like the Red Sox is never going to rebuild. A team like the Dodgers is never going to rebuild. And I think that's the conversation the Cubs want to find themselves in. Listen, this team has been on national TV for decades. WGN was in every household.
Yep.
These are the Cubs. This is arguably the second biggest fan base in all of Major League Baseball behind the Yankees. So spend like it. And I think that they're ready to spend like it.
I love it. So I'm excited about this team next year, and I'm excited about what they're building. And if you want to hear more from the Cubs prospects, Matt Mervis interview out now on the call up, Pico Armstrong on Friday. And that's it from me.
Let's see. We've got some good stuff going on in the Just Baseball store. You can find the link in the episode description. You can find the link on my Twitter at Jack_McMullen11. Right? Have you tweeted out the link in recent days?
A couple days ago. Yeah.
Okay. So at RMLayton8, that would be a good chance to find the link as well. We did have a good Black Friday promotion going on, but we got new hoodies in stock that are apparently sick. So hey, listen, get your merch, man. Help support us. And Peter and I will be back to talk to you about some good tomorrow. And Arm's holding up his hoodie. So that's it from us. See you guys.